Hey guys, so I'm doing this video. This is my first video, but it's an important one. It is on autism. It's on autism in Black boys. It's about autism and the African kind of cultural setup. It's autism on the first-time mom kind of scale. I think there's a big gap of information pertaining to autism in those areas, and I wanted to do this short video talking about this, highlighting certain things that I've done that have really helped my son, and hoping that somehow or somewhere out there it will help another mom. So, those of you who know, I'm 30 years old. I had my son when I was like 25. Yes, because he turned 5 actually recently. So I had my son when I was 25. And he was really, really sharp. I mean, by the time he started walking at 9 months. I mean, at 16, 17 months, he already was very, able to use gadgets and things like that. I mean, you name it. He used to love Old McDonald's. But one of the signs that maybe I didn't know at that time were his like obsessive kind of traits. So he would watch Old McDonald's repeatedly, and he could watch it all day long. That probably should have been the first sign. But at the time, I didn't know. Then we went on holiday with our family and friends, and I was really lucky that one of my sisters really is kind of read up on these areas and spaces of kind of conditions that kids are faced with. And she highlighted, she was like, oh, your son's really regressing. He didn't have eye contact. He didn't like being held. He didn't like noises. He didn't like bright colors. He just didn't like crowds. And even just small things like getting his hair cut was a problem. He didn't like the noise that the clippers were making by his ears. And at the time, I guess I didn't know what that meant, and I didn't want to receive that information. I was like, no, that's not my portion. I don't know why you would say this, and I don't know who sent you. Now, I'm Zimbabwean, my son's Zimbabwean, I'm married to a Zimbabwean man. And I think what I would say from a cultural point of view is a lot of the time we normalize certain mannerisms that shouldn't be. So if someone is quiet and reserved, we just say, that person is quiet. Or if someone is very aggressive and loud, we say, oh, that person is just boisterous. And we don't like to dig deeper. But when I was given that kind of hint by my sister, and I really want to say, like, if you are aware of these type of traits in kids, it's the hardest thing to tell someone because it's a hard pill to swallow. But if you can be brave enough to tell someone that I think your son might have this condition, or why don't you go see this type of doctor, maybe it's the best thing you can do, because my sister doing that for my son changed his life for forever. I just think we're in a day and age now where we don't have to be embarrassed or ashamed or scared of diagnosis anymore. If you're diagnosed with things, I mean, so many people have so many conditions. I mean, like, people have anxiety, depression, and I think sometimes when we're given a label, something as big as autism, we're like, oh my God, what does this mean? And I think as a mom, your first instinct is to want to protect your son or your child. And I had my kids back to back. My kids are 14 months apart, and I was so scared that maybe, it's genetic. So if my first son has it, what about my second? But as I said, my son was really lucky that everyone around me was brave enough to give me the pill I did not want to swallow. So this video is really for the moms. I'm not trying to make it too long, so I'm going to try to cut it off just now, but this will just be the intro. If people want me to get into more detail about how I've helped my son start to, his speech has gotten up there, his mannerisms, his behavior. We have duologue when we talk. He understands questions, he understands orders, all the things we did to help get him to where he is now, where he's now being reintegrated to neurotypical schools. You can definitely let me know. But what I really wanted to say is you can't let culture be the reason why you don't get the help for your kid. You can't let what the Joneses next door are going to say about you be the reason why you are not getting your kids. You can't be afraid of what your in-laws or what your relatives are going to say if your son has a condition be the reason why you're not getting your kid the help that they need. My dad said to me, because my son also needed the tongue tie operation, and the only thing my dad said to me was, you don't want to be in a situation when your son is older and looks at you and says, you had all the means at your fingertips to help me change my life, but you didn't. So that's just a brief, hopefully, opening conversation. If people want to know a little bit more about autism in Black boys, what you can do to help your son. I'm not saying these are the only things you can do. There are a lot of different things. I'm willing to do a whole episode on all the things I tried with my son, the things that worked, the things that didn't, the things that we're currently doing, the people that helped. I'm really here for that. I didn't know that the few people who have been messaging me from all over the world, I didn't know that these things are actually changing lives. So I said to myself, if that's my portion, it's my portion.